Hey guys, it's week 3 NFL. I've been getting a lot of questions on running backs. And then I don't like doing too much breakdowns in my videos because they were ended up being like an hour long. And I love breaking down every single game, but there's a lot of chalk at the running back position this week. So I was just getting different questions on who to play, why, different stuff. And then I already did one video on just who I liked overall at different positions, but I didn't break it all down by running backs who I really liked and who I didn't like. So after hearing some other videos and podcasts and just seeing who was going to be pretty much you just read a lot of the stardoms on different websites. It pretty much all looks like the exact same core of people for every position. So I just figured might as well do a breakdown video of like who to pivot off of, who's probably going to be the chalk, and who's in a position to not get you those points when you're paying up, or when you're playing with the chalk. You pretty much have to have a lot of points at that position, at that person in the chalk, or else you're gonna miss out on everyone else that's not playing it. So I wrote down for the chalk this week. This is just from what I'm seeing, projections. Jay Ajayi, you can't say no to him. He's playing against the Jets. So Miami's got the Jets. They're 31st against the run. Week 1, they went up against Shady and Tolbert, gave up 34 rushing attempts. Buffalo's usually the number 1 rushing offense in the league, at least most attempt-wise. And they gave up 152 yards, a touchdown, 7 catches for 66 yards. If you add both of those guys together, that's good for 27 points. And then you got week 2 was Jalen Richard and Lynch, I believe. I believe it was Richard who had that long break. But that was 24 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, 70 yards, and that's good for 31 points. So I put down the other 2 backs, although they weren't. I mean, Richard was obviously relevant. He was like a 50-yard touchdown, but I put down Tolbert, but I put down both backs as well as LaShawn McCoy and Marshawn Lynch, because Jay Ajayi does all this by himself. There really isn't any Kenyon Drake. He was on the field for, I believe, 1 play, or got the ball 1 time. So Jay Ajayi is probably going to get 25 to 30 carries. So he's, with that sheer amount of volume, he's a good runner against a bad run defense. I don't know how much I believe in Jay Cutler, so they very well could stack the box, but this run defense is so bad that I don't know if it matters. So he's going to be the chalk, but I am going to play him in both cash and GPP. He's expensive on DraftKings. He's expensive on FanDuel. So either way, you're going to pay for him. The next guy that I think is going to be one of the highest owns, Ty Montgomery. I talked about him back-to-back weeks. He is touchdown dependent in his rushing yards. He just doesn't get good rushing yards. They're not a lot at all, but he was involved in the passing game. 7 catches for 75 yards last week, I think, and then he got his touchdown. So if you play on DraftKings, he's even better. But on FanDuel, when you only get those 0.5 PPR, if he doesn't get you a touchdown, he's not good enough for the chalk. So I'm not going to have full exposure to him just because he's touchdown relevant. He has an amazing matchup against Cincinnati. But once again, Cincinnati, they went up against Baltimore when Baltimore didn't have their ground game, I don't think, fully figured out yet. They were trying to do other things with it. And they went up against Houston, who doesn't have an offensive line. So a little bit skewed or actually they're horrible against the run. From what I remember, they're 31st, I think, or 32nd or something. They're absolutely trash against the run. DraftKings has them listed as 20th. And then on here, yeah, they're both listed as 20th. So that probably makes sense because Texans can't run and the Ravens tried to run. So either way, Ty Montgomery is going to be chalk, and I don't know. I like him in the passing game, but if he doesn't get you that touchdown, back-to-back weeks touchdowns, that's going to be hard to do 3 weeks in a row. So I don't really care for him as much. This next guy, I don't really care for, Christian McCaffrey. So first 2 weeks, he was looking at 34 yards and 38 yards with 4 catches and 5 catches. And then he was at like 10 yards rushing and 37 yards rushing or something. And my biggest concern is he's given 8 to 12 touches per game. Can't really do much with it. He's averaging 2.7 yards a carry, and he's used somewhat in the offense as a pass catcher. So he's used everywhere. So that's great. He's on the field, but when you give him those touches as a running back, it kind of takes away from his fantasy value as a receiver. And when you give him those receivers, he can't get going on his running. So I don't really like him. He's got a great matchup, but he's got for his price, for his output so far. So he's averaging on DraftKings 10.5 points for $6,100. Like that's not good. Like that's not going to cut it. You're under two times value at that. So he's got a great matchup, but he's just not getting it. I know Cam Newton hasn't been able to throw it to him. He dropped a pass in the end zone, but not necessarily dropped it. Cam Newton missed him, but I don't like him there. That's going to be one of the guys I fade. Kareem Hunt. This is another one that's his average yards are just insane. 8.7 week 1, 6.7 week 2, and then on his catches 9.3 and 19.6. Like that is insanely hard to sustain. Let alone he had 2 touchdowns on 13 carries in week 2, and 2 touchdowns on 5 catches in week 1. Like, yeah, he could just be an absolutely amazing player. The dude's super fast. If it wasn't for Tyreek Hill, he might be one of their fastest guys on the team. But I don't see that being consistent numbers. But as long as he's putting up 45 points and 25 points, you're going to keep playing him. The thing that scares me is he got 13 touches one game and 17 another game. Plus he gets you those passing. So he gets you a full workload. Just week 2, that 13 catches or 13 runs and 3 catches, that's not a lot of volume. So luckily he's breaking away these huge runs and huge catches and getting you touchdowns. But he's another one that's going to be chalk, and they're playing against the Chargers. Very good run defense. So I don't know how much I like him either for his price. It's not bad, $7,600. He's averaging 20 points, and on DraftKings you get that PPR, full point PPR. So he's definitely good there. I'm sorry, I just looked at the wrong guy real quick. Kareem Hunt. I was looking at Gordon at LA, but Kareem Hunt at LA is their opponent's rank is number 1 against the run, and then I compare that to also the running backs against like other sites, and the Chargers are number 6. So regardless, they're an amazing run defense, and he's not getting too many touches, but he is heavily involved overall just in the passing game as well. But he's another one for his price. I don't think his fantasy output is sustainable. It's like Tyreek Hill. He has these phenomenal games, and then we see like last week. So they're also away. They're in LA. It's a divisional game. Chances are the score is going to be 17-20, 24-20. LA is going to blow it in the last second, but I don't see too much scoring. I already talked about Jay Ajayi. He's going to be the chalk. And then Melvin Gordon was the guy I was looking at the stats because he's the next guy I'm talking about. Kansas City's run defense is good. Melvin Gordon is absolutely atrocious at running the ball. He's got 27 carries, 67 yards. Like, that's disgusting. And last year, he was horrible as well running the ball. He just had an insane amount of touchdowns. So luckily, he's used in the passing game. But because he's going up against Kansas City, good at stopping the run. Week 1, I think they're actually amazing at stopping the run. The reason that their defenses are ranked higher is because New England gashed them week 1 for 3 touchdowns. So had Tom thrown 1 or 2 of those, or Gronk that didn't get called back, I mean, he missed it, but had 1 or 2 of those been a passing touchdown, you're looking at probably the best defense in the league against the run, because week 2, though, it's not really fair. They played Philly. Philly doesn't even really have a running back anymore. So we're not really sure because 1 week Kansas City gives up 31 points to the running back, and then week 2 they give up 5 points to the running backs. So I don't really know. Well, what are you going to get? Yeah, New England definitely knows how to use their running backs, and Philadelphia doesn't really have running backs. And now you got the Chargers, who they use Gordon. He's pretty much their main guy. He is their main guy. He's their goal line back, their 3-down back, and he's used in the passing game. But his yards per carry, it's bad. So, and I think the Chiefs can put up some points. So he's one of those chalk plays that I don't really like. He's averaging 20 points, fantasy points a game. In DraftKings, you can't argue with that. But he's going to be one of those guys that I fade. As for, these are the medium ownership guys I'm thinking. Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, C.J. Anderson, Tariq Cohen, and Isaiah Crowell. I'm all in on Le'Veon Bell this week. I was last week when he get like 33 carries or something. Like he got 27 attempts last game and then 4 targets. So 31. I was way off. But touched the ball overall 31 times. That's pretty much where he lives, Like he could get more catches and he can get more attempts. The only thing I don't like about him is now that they have their full offense healthy and they got a tight end that they kind of like, his catches are going to come down, so that limits his ceiling. So still a remarkable running back, but we're never going to get – if we get Le'Veon Bell cheaper than this, that's because he laid another egg this week. But I was listening to one of the podcasts with Peter Jennings in it saying that Chicago's a good run defense. I was like, all right, well, I didn't think they were that great. So I went to go check out the last 2 weeks. They played Freeman and Coleman, and combined between rushing and catching, both running backs combined, they gave up 21 fantasy points. And then week 2, they went up against Rodgers and Peyton Barber, Jacquizz Rodgers and Peyton Barber. They gave up a combined 17.4. So that's not very good. And now you got Le'Veon Bell, who doesn't split carries or catches targets with anyone in the backfield. It's all Le'Veon Bell. They have I'm not going to say a much better offensive line than Atlanta because Atlanta has a good offensive line, but they have a better offensive line than Atlanta. And they got a much better offensive line than Tampa Bay. Yeah, they're playing at Chicago, but I think the Steelers' offense, even though it's on the road, is for real. And they're favored by a good bit. So you always take the running back when you're favored. So I think Le'Veon Bell is not going to get his 27 attempts for 87 yards, like a 3.2 average. That's not Le'Veon Bell. So, but the fact that he got all those attempts plus his catches, if you can get a back that's explosive for a medium, maybe even low ownership, I'm not hearing people talk about him because of his price plus his back-to-back bad weeks, then yeah, I'll take him all day in tournaments. I'm not going to take him in too much cash because of his price. But yeah, in tournaments, I'm going to take him all day. Him and Jay Ajayi, you can play Jay Ajayi in both cash and GPPs just because sheer volume plus ceiling he has. But Devontae Freeman, I don't like Devontae Freeman. Back-to-back games, not bad at all. He's averaging 18 points, but he's used in the passing attack a little bit. He's one of those guys that I think are touchdown dependent. And like at least Ty Montgomery gets more catches. LaShawn McCoy, he can do everything, but he doesn't have a good matchup this week. Same with like Gordon. He gets you catches, but he's still touchdown dependent. And I'd rather take Kareem Hunt, who's just looks like a phenomenal running back, than Devontae Freeman, who mediocre yards per carry, and he has to get you those touchdowns. He's got 3 touchdowns in 2 games. Yeah, like that's great, but for his price plus ownership, I'm not too big on him. And right below him on DraftKings is Christian McCaffrey, who I already talked about. I don't like his yards per carry. I don't like the way they're using him. I like the way they're using him as a team, but not as a fantasy perspective. And then my other guy, Tariq Cohen, who skyrocketed in price, 5,600. Yeah, he's averaging 19 points fantasy. He's got a. They're probably going to be trailing too against Pittsburgh, so you might be able to get him in your be able to use him as the passing back. But we don't know about Jordan Howard if he's fine or not. He seems fine. He had 9 attempts last week and he had a banged up shoulder. He's pissed off though. All this Tariq Cohen talk. He said he's disgruntled. He wants more carries. He's a great running back. I think he gets you. I think he's going to do 12 to 15 touches next week. Talking about Jordan Howard, it's going to take away from Tariq Cohen's touches. They're going to have to use him as kind of a slot receiver again, but he's not a slot receiver. He's a running back. Yeah, that worked week 1, but it's not going to work against Pittsburgh. Their linebackers are way too athletic. They're too good of a defense, and Chicago's not a good enough offense. So if anything, he might get you some garbage time points because they're going to have to abandon the run, but they're going to try to run the ball at the beginning of the game, and it's probably going to be with Jordan Howard, or it is going to be with Jordan Howard. So I don't like Tariq Cohen. Talking about tight ends real quick, I actually do like Zach Miller back-to-back, like 7 targets in both games, I believe. So yeah, I like Zach Miller this week as a tight end, cheap tight end, low ownership. Pittsburgh has never really been good against tight ends. And then my last guy I talked about, Isaiah Crowell. A lot of people like him, and I don't. They're talking about how good Cleveland's offensive line is. He had bad matchups, game script, game flow, all that. I'm like, yeah, I agree. I love their offensive line preseason. Like, that's great. That's where it starts. That's how you don't kill your quarterbacks like they've been doing for years. They're finally learning that. Just because they have a great offensive line doesn't mean they have a great run blocking offensive line. So that's 2 different things. When I had to figure that out week 1, I was at the Tennessee game, and I thought DeMarco Murray and some of Derrick Henry, even Marcus Mariota, they were going to be able to run the ball like they want to. But they're not. Their offensive line's amazing, but their run block is just not there right now. So there's a difference between the 2. But Crowell, I was just jotting down some things about, well, I'm really not going to play him. So it's Indy's defense, yeah, they're not good. So you can throw against them too. Like, they don't have a good secondary. Yeah, Cleveland's favored. I think Indy wins. Sorry, but Jacoby Brissett had another week to practice, another week to get his timing right. He's not a bad quarterback. Another week to learn the offense. You couple that with Crowell's going to be a chalk play. He's only had, 1 big game last year, I believe. And, his price is great. Like 4,800, his price is great. But this is still the Cleveland Browns. It's still a rookie quarterback. He's cheap, that's good, but it's still in Indianapolis. I usually don't like running backs way too much. Yeah, they're favored by 1. And they lost Corey Coleman. Yeah, a lot of people like Rashard Higgins this week. Like, his big thing was he was great in college 3 or 4 years ago. And he had 11 targets last week. Great. I like David Njoku better. Indy's not good at covering the tight end, but Cleveland's not good at covering the tight end either. Jack Doyle's another good tight end this week. But as for talking about Crowell, like, I think Indianapolis wins. I think they're able to score, somewhat hold the ball a little bit. I think it's going to be an ugly game. It's an extremely low-scoring game. And Crowell's not this power great runner. Like, we've seen this before. It's a Crowell game script. It never really happens. They lost Corey Coleman, their number 1 weapon on offense. So if Vontae Davis is back, he's probably going to play on Rashard Higgins a good bit if he plays that side. But I don't know if Vontae Davis is back. The dude's always hurt. They don't have much of an offense there. Kenny Britt, that just supports it. So I don't think they can throw the ball well. So if they can't throw the ball well, why would they be able to run? Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand. If you can run, you could open up some lanes. You have to make the defense honest. But he's going to be very, very chalky. And yeah, if you need him, if you want to play Bell or Ajayi, then yeah, you might have to pay down for a running back. But who I do like is the guy right below him is Jonathan Stewart, because he's getting 15 to 18 touches in 1 game. He got 15, and then week 2, 18. Cam Newton's got a hurt ankle. He's gonna hand it off, and they lost Greg Olsen. Like, he's the most trusted guy. That's why people like Christian McCaffrey more this week. No one really knows who to pair with Cam Newton. I thought he'd be the chalk until everyone realized that he's actually looking really bad this year. So I guess if you can get the quarterback at home that's favored against the worst defense in the league, he should be the chalk. But the fact that he's not means I'm actually more interested in him now, and I'll probably pair him with Kelvin Benjamin. I'm not going to pair him with Curtis Samuel or Devin Funchess. Just not. He's going to go to Kelvin Benjamin. He trusts him. Greg Olsen's gone. He's going to go to his safety net. It's kind of the quarterback that he is. Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen gets all his targets. So Devin Funchess had like 7 targets last week when Greg Olsen went out, but I don't see this happen against the Saints. So I like Jonathan Stewart, though. He's 4,700. People are just going to look right over him because of Jonathan Stewart. Jordan Howard's at 4,900. If you need a cheap running back, they're going to try to run the ball. But Jonathan Stewart, he's going to get you the touches. He's old. He's not a great back, but he's still a goal line back. He's going to get you touches, and they're favored. They're going to want to keep the ball away from Drew Brees, and they have a great defense. Should be able to control this, and everyone's going to play McCaffrey. If Jonathan Stewart takes that touchdown, he's probably going to get you 50, 60 yards. If he gets that touchdown, okay, cool. He paid it. He's a flex. I'm not going to focus on those guys at all, but it's definitely worth at least looking at. 2 guys that are getting talked about, Samaje Perine and Chris Thompson. They're both the same price. Samaje Perine, as soon as Rob Kelly went out, and he should be out this week, Perine was their number 1 guy for running. Chris Thompson is still their PPR back and their 3rd down back. So because Oakland's got a good run D, and this is supposed to be a higher scoring game, so I guess you could favor Chris Thompson, but he doesn't get you any touches as a running back at all. I think he got 2 last week. He had 3 last week. I mean, Rob Kelly was out and he had 3 attempts. He had 2 touchdowns, but I'm not. That's an anomaly. So those are those chalk guys I was talking about. Guys that I like. If DeMarco Murray is limited, he's still questionable the whole week, and if he doesn't practice Friday, then I'm probably going to fire up Derrick Henry. Seattle, stereotypically, they're always good against the run. So far this year, not so much. They're ranked, if I could even find them in here. I remember not seeing them. Yeah, so Derrick Henry's 5,300, and they're ranked 15th against the run. So, but it's at Tennessee. They're probably going to try to run it as much as they can. Marcus Mariota isn't throwing it too well right now. Corey Davis is banged up. He's probably still going to play, though. So Derrick Henry came in and just took over. DeMarco Murray's 5,500, so that's tough. He just hasn't been running well. He said he had a hurt hammy in the offseason, and then Derrick Henry came over and just took over. They were running the clock, though, just eating the clock out the whole time. So, I'm not – I like him if DeMarco Murray's out, because then you get this phenomenal back. I think he's going to be a great running back in the future, but you get a back that they're committed to running the ball. They don't give up the run, and Seattle isn't too great at stopping the run so far this year. But that's probably because people are forced to run it against them because they can't score and you can't throw against Seattle that well. So, those are the guys I like. As long as Kareem Hunt still does his stuff, I like Kareem Hunt, Jay Ajayi, Derrick Henry if Murray's out. I like Bell a lot. I like Ty Montgomery on DraftKings, but if he's touchdown dependent. It also depends on who's there. Jordy Nelson, Cobb. Jordy Nelson's probably going to play. Cobb probably going to play too. This is a big game. It just depends. You could suit up and you can be out there, but how efficient are you? And that's going to depends on more if they're going to let Montgomery run more or not, or use him more in the passing game. So I like him. He's going to be. That's the thing. Ajayi, Hunt, Montgomery. They're all going to be heavily owned, and for good reason. And then C.J. Anderson, I don't even think I talked about him. I don't like him too much against Buffalo. Yeah, Denver has looked great in 2 weeks as a team, CJ Anderson had one amazing game and one bad game against the Chargers, who Kareem Hunt's facing. So, and now he's at Buffalo. It seems to be a good defense, good run defense. I like their linebackers, Marcel Darius, Shaq Lawson, or whatever. Good linebackers. They seem like they can stop the run. Just Denver's had such a stifling defense; they're able to control the clock. So I don't really care too much for Anderson, and because of his good game recently, same with Devontae Freeman, they're both going to be a little bit chalky, decently priced. For C.J. Anderson, Devontae Freeman's almost $1,000 more than him. So if you're going to pay for Devontae Freeman, you might as well pay down for Christian McCaffrey or pay $200 more for Ty Montgomery. So that's why I put Freeman and Anderson as my middle-owned guys. But yeah, your big guys are going to be Hunt, Ajayi, probably Gordon, McCaffrey, Montgomery. But I'm going with Bell, Ajayi, and almost all of them. Probably play Montgomery and Hunt as well. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about running backs this week. I'm not seeing too many others that I like. Detroit versus Atlanta. Atlanta gave up 30 points to the running backs, to Chicago Bears running backs, because Jordan Howard rushed for a touchdown and Tariq Cohen went nuts week 1. And then against the Packers, they gave up a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. They gave up a huge game to Ty Montgomery. He still couldn't run. 12 attempts for 41 yards and a touchdown. 8 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown to their running backs in the backfield. So they gave up 24 points there. And now they play Detroit. Detroit doesn't really run. When they do run, they just run it the same side. And that's all their main run that I saw. But they used Theo Riddick in the passing game, and they used Abdullah in the run game. Abdullah had a decent little run game last week. I don't really care too much for these running backs against Atlanta. So I don't know. You could play Abdullah or Riddick. I'd rather get your guys' thoughts on that because I don't know. Theo Riddick's 5,100. Yeah, like Atlanta's run defense or running back defense is atrocious. It's horrible. And then Abdullah's 4,700. I've never liked Abdullah. I never thought he was a good running back. And Theo Riddick is your pass catching back. That's not a lot of volume. You could play them in cash. Some people play Abdullah in cash, and I guess Riddick in GPPs, but I don't really care for either of them. Because they're horrible, because Atlanta's usually horrible at pass catching backs, it favors Theo Riddick to have a good game. If you're playing PPR, then yeah, definitely play Theo Riddick over Abdullah. But I'm going to probably stay away from both of them. This game is one of the higher totals for the week. Everyone's talking about it being a shootout. 2 mediocre defenses with decent offenses. They look like pretty good offenses. And then the other team that's absolutely horrible against running backs is the Saints. So, and like I said, I think a good pivot play off of McCaffrey is Stewart because he's going to get you those touches. If he gets into that touchdown, Newton's got a bum ankle. So if he gets a touchdown, then yeah, he's fine. He took away from McCaffrey and he paid off his price, no problem. So I had some other guys written down, but yeah, there's not a lot of guys I like this week. So like Jacquizz Rodgers, they let Peyton Barber touch the ball 10 times. So he's splitting carries. Chris Carson I think his name's Chris Carson. Chris Carson, Seattle. He carried the ball 20 times for 93 yards. That was at home against San Francisco. Take it as you will. He's playing Tennessee. They just did a great job against Leonard Fournette. And they did a good job against Lynch week 1. Pretty good job against Lynch week 1. And I would say pretty good job against Fournette week 2. Their front seven's not bad, and now they're going up against one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So I don't like Chris Carson. I don't like Lamar Miller on DraftKings. You're going to see that 32nd ranked defense. That's comes Kareem Hunt just tore them apart that week. So yeah, that's why that number is so skewed. It's going to come down, absolutely. So I like James White. That's one guy I wanted to talk about. I like James White. Houston at New England. Um, James White, he's involved. You never know who's going to pop off in that offense. So just the fact that he's involved is good. Gillislee is actually, I think I said him earlier, Gillislee is one of my favorite running backs this week. Due to the fact that he's on New England, he's a New England running back. He's probably going to be the highest owned New England running back, but that's not saying much just because they use James White and Burkhead just had a great touchdown last week. That's going to take away a little bit of ownership. He's priced right above Tariq Cohen, right below CJ Anderson. So his price isn't going to make him too highly played. I don't think he's going to be a huge chalk, but Houston's not good against the run, especially how New England plays them. If you look at these teams that are horrible against the run, a couple of them have gone up against New England, and they just absolutely torched them. So, like I said, Kansas City, horrible against the run. 1 week, they played the Pats, got trashed, and then just in the run game. And then in week 2, they played Philly, looked phenomenal. Pats last week against the Saints. And again, the Saints gave up 100-something yards to Dalvin Cook, 125 or 130-something. So, yeah, that's the Saints. So I really like Gillislee this week for 5,700 at decent ownership at hot. Like I'm thinking 8%, probably lower than the Millionaire Maker. So I like Gillislee. But other than that, yeah, Lynch has a good matchup on paper, but his average points sitting at 10, 11. I think that's how he's going to be running this year. I don't think he's going to get you over a 4-yard average per game, really. Like, yeah, I know one's 3.8, one's 4.2. That was against the Jets, or that was against Tennessee, and then the other one against the Jets. So, like, he got 45 yards against the Jets. So I don't really care for Lynch this week. And it's at Washington. Washington, their offense should click at some point. I think it's kind of forced to click this week. I think they throw the ball. I don't think Marshawn Lynch is that big of a factor. So I think that's it. Pretty much went over everyone. I know I was a little scattered on this one because I went over the chalk and then I went over the medium ownership, went over people I liked. But yeah, I'm not too big on running backs this week. I just wanted to say, hey, I think the chalk is Jay Ajayi, Ty Montgomery, McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Gordon, and then Bell, Freeman, CJ Anderson, Tariq Cohen, Crowell. I think you can back off of every single one of those last 4 I mentioned, Freeman, Anderson, Cohen, and Crowell. And I'm all for Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell gets you about 22, 24 points this week. I think I'm not going to say the highest scoring running back because of Jay Ajayi and Kareem Hunt. And then you also have those crazy games, especially in PPR and DraftKings. But I think Le'Veon Bell is definitely up there as one of the top running backs this week. I'll be playing Bell with Ajayi if I can, and pay down for a tight end at Jack Doyle, Zach Miller, a few guys like that, and probably like a cheap flex running back or 2 tight ends, or Gillislee maybe, but he's probably going to be too expensive. And then I like Gillislee, Derrick Henry if DeMarco Murray's out, and then I think a good pivot play off of Christian McCaffrey is Jonathan Stewart. So yeah, just trying to clear up a little bit about running backs this week. So hopefully that helped. But let me know if you disagree and why, so I can like look into it and see like, oh, okay, you got a point there. Or who do you like, or some projections, just drop a comment. So I like getting other people's feedbacks. So I hope this helps you guys out. Thanks.